What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be joined by Alex Wolfe from Locked On Knicks to discuss the roller coaster that is New York Knicks basketball, an 8-game win streak, then a 5-game losing streak, now currently on another 4-game winning streak. What is going on with the New York Knicks, the ups and the downs? At the core of it, Julius Randle, who's having a more efficient season than he did when he was an all-star. What's allowing him to take this step up as far as his productivity, his efficiency compared to last year? And then Jalen Brunson, the marquee offseason acquisition for the Knicks. How has he embraced his role as the point guard of this Knicks team? We're going to break down all of that for you. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Are you looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all of that fat and calories, right? Then you've got to try Built Bar. Look, I've said it once, I'll say it again. Built Bar are the number one protein bars on the market. It's because every single bar is coated in 100% delicious chocolate. They're soft, they're easy to chew. They've got so many incredible flavors to choose from, like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, cookies and cream, salted caramel, strawberry, raspberry. I could just go on and on and on and on. My personal favorite is coconut brownie chunk, though, but you really can't go wrong with a single bar on their menu. Every single bar is low cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber. Amazing if you're on a keto diet. Amazing if you're trying to cut back a little bit, really stick to those New Year's resolutions. You can check them out. Just go to built.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your very next order of the best tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off at built.com. Joining us now is Alex Wolfe, the host of Locked On Knicks. You can find wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just search Locked On Knicks. Also available on YouTube. Now, Alex, Knicks 7th in the Eastern Conference, 22-18. Walk me through this like roller coaster that is the New York Knicks, because they go on an 8-game win streak, 8 wins in a row. Then they reel off 5 losses in a row. Now another 4 wins in a row. So it's just like a lot, skyrocketing up the standings, then like a slight dip in the standings. Now you're, rising back up. Walk us through this kind of like roller coaster over these last, 20 games or so?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is Julius Randle, obviously, first and foremost. He's been playing. Gavin, my co-host Gavin and I have been saying for weeks now, I mean, we think better than his 2020 to 21 season where he got second team All-NBA. His shot profile is way better. He's doing his thing with, shooting more threes on volume and hitting about 35%. I know it's lofty territory, but it's sort of similar to how like Luka Doncic can shoot 35% from 3, but because he's taking so many and taking such difficult shots, it opens things up for the rest of the team. Julius is really having that kind of impact right now, and it's not hyperbole to say so, I don't think. Other than that, Jalen Brunson is fantastic and has been worth every penny that they gave him. As far as the roller coaster of it all, I mean, they were really starting to hit their stride during that 8-game win streak, and then get kind of stymied by the Raptors. The Raptors played like a perfect game against them. Siakam had like the game of his life, and then run into, Luka again, to talk about him again, with the 60-point triple-double that honestly, the Knicks, I wouldn't have even cared about the 60-point triple-double because the Knicks almost won that game, if not for his crazy putback right at the end to send it to overtime. So it doesn't ultimately matter from a Knicks perspective in that way. But then starting in that game, you have Jalen Brunson out, and RJ Barrett has now been out ever since that game, with what we initially thought was Luka clawing his finger open, but apparently RJ like dislocated his finger to the point of breaking the skin, and we're like, oh, that sounds terrible. So he's been out since then. So that sort of contributed to that losing streak where there just wasn't enough firepower. And now they're back to their winning ways because Randle's still playing fantastic. Brunson is back. And his team has really found a great groove. It's a fun team to watch right now. I mean, they're scoring really well, which is bizarre for a Knicks team. Like they're playing very modern and playing sort of, I wouldn't call it 5 out, but like 4 out a lot of the time with Mitchell Robinson in there to clean up on the inside, and being a fantastic offensive rebounder. It's a fun brand of basketball to watch right now. It's the most fun, I think, as a Knicks fan, you could say probably since 2020 to 21.
You mentioned Julius Randle and like the shot profile a little bit and kind of how he's gotten back to, or maybe he's even exceeding the play from his All-Star campaign a couple years ago. What are you kind of seeing? Maybe it is just the shot profile. What are you seeing that's allowing him to kind of have this, maybe a bit of like a career renaissance, if you will, right? Because he had that All-Star year, then he had the down season last year. Now he's, back to, playing maybe even more efficient basketball than he was during his All-Star campaign.
Yeah, I think it is more efficient because if you look at like his overall field goal percentage and stuff like that, and again, just based off the volume of the threes, I think he is more efficient right now than he was then because he's taking shots that make the team better, more so than just the big difference between. I won't even compare it to last year because last year was far and away worse. But like if you're comparing it to his 2020 to 21 year to this year, the difference was in 2020 to 21, he made all of his money in the mid range. And it was almost like Carmelo Anthony-esque, in that he was doing a lot of face up, jab step, jab step, jab step, shoot a mid range, shoot a fader, shoot whatever from that general mid range area. And he just made a ton of them. And he shot 40% on threes, but he was shooting a low volume. So, it was like that was just kind of the shot to keep other teams honest. He did start to work in like some step back threes towards the end of that year, but then those kind of went away once the gyms filled back up and you didn't have, empty arenas anymore. And this year, the difference is he's making those now. He's making these crazy step backs. He can take an ISO possession and turn it into a step back three that has a very credible chance of going in. But he's also embracing spot up threes quite a bit. And he's embracing getting to the rim. That's the huge thing. Like for a guy that's built as huge as he is, he didn't often want to get all the way to the rim before. And now he's finally embracing that, drawing tons of fouls per game, which is huge for efficiency, as we know. And you could probably stand to have him make a few more of the free throws, but still the generating that many opportunities at the line is huge. And then on top of it, once he starts getting attention from other teams, and his trademark thing lately has been score like 15 plus points in the first quarter, like of almost every game. And once he does that, other teams start throwing more coverage at him. And he's been so great at passing out of those situations, whether it's on the perimeter or whether it's driving towards the hoop, he finds an open teammate. And then now the Knicks have the shooting around the edge to make that really work with Jalen Brunson, Quentin Grimes, RJ Barrett when he's healthy, Emmanuel Quickly, guys like that can all hit a 3-pointer. So it's just a great formula, and he's doing it. He's playing a better season this year, putting up more points per game on better efficiency while actually having less of a focal point role in the offense, which is the really crazy part of it all.
24.4 points per night for Julius Randle. You mentioned his name there just a moment ago, Jalen Brunson, right? The marquee acquisition for the Knicks this past offseason. How has Brunson kind of embraced the Knicks and his role on this Knicks team this season?
Yeah, I mean, he's the point guard, period. Which is the thing that you couldn't really nail down for the Knicks for years, right? Like the list is just abysmal, even just in the last like 3-4 years. Last year,
does it feel nice to like finally be able to say that's the point guard, that's the guy?
That is the point guard. There's no controversy, no doubt in anybody's mind. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, last year, Kemba Walker starts the year, reveals that he is completely washed, and then has a couple like standout games, but mostly just could not stay on the court and be healthy. And then Alec Burks starts at point guard for the rest of the year, and it's just terrible. And the year before that, you had Elfrid Payton, and that was not a fun experience. You had Derrick Rose coming off the bench, which was great, but he obviously can't play a huge role like that anymore. And that's really come to pass this year, where his body seems to finally be kind of breaking down a little bit as far as endurance goes. So having Brunson there, the guy that you could just point to and say, yes, that's the point guard. He could play 35 minutes a night. The stuff that he does is just crazy. And I talked about this on one of our shows recently, where I was like, the beauty of Jalen Brunson too is that he's not a rhythm player. So like he doesn't need to find a rhythm. He kind of just is always in rhythm. So he's perfectly able to just let Julius Randle cook and feed him in the first quarter. And if RJ Barrett is playing really well in the next quarter, or Quentin Grimes or whoever it may be, he could just feed guys for a while, get his 6-7 assists. And then when it comes crunch time, he always has a move to create an open shot. He's just, I don't know how he does it. The guy's like 6'1" on a good day, it looks like. And yet he'll go against these rangy defenders and just put him in a blender within like 8 feet of the hoop and just sit there and like pivot, fake pass, pivot again. And all of a sudden just be hitting a fader over these guys with like almost a full 180 degrees worth of arc under it that just plops right through the hoop. It's really crazy watching him play basketball, and seeing how efficient he can be given all of the physical limitations that his size presents. The guy on top of it is just kind of the quintessential New York player that, at least what Knicks fans have always wanted ever since like the 90s, of like, literally, I will go out there and play until like the wheels fall off. Like we saw recently, he had about 3 small injuries finally stack up enough that they said, you know what, Jalen, you could barely walk right now. Maybe you ought to sit a couple games. And he's like, fine, if you insist. Like he does everything that you want out of the point guard position, other than maybe like super elite defense, but he tries hard and it more than makes up for, like, his offense more than makes up for it. It's been such a breath of fresh air, and it's so great, especially from a Knicks fan perspective, watching what he's done for Randle, giving Randle someone that he can trust to bring the ball up and trust to initiate the offense, that it's had ripple effects throughout the whole team. He's been such a great presence this year.
Quentin Grimes, a Houston product, so just very near and dear to my heart, has worked his way into the Knicks starting lineup and hasn't left. He's 12.6 points per game on 38% shooting. How was he able to earn that starting spot, and kind of what's impressed you most about his sophomore campaign?
Defense is the main thing. I mean, he's easily the best wing defender. Well, okay, I won't say easily. Like, Emmanuel Quickley has been quite good at wing defense this year. Deuce McBride, that they bring off the bench, is also very, very good. They have some really great young defenders on the wing. RJ Barrett, when he turns it up to 11, is great on defense as well. But Grimes consistently is drawing like the A1 assignment on the other team and being told like, hey, do enough to keep this guy, in check. And, you're also gonna have to switch sometimes, and whatever, like, get around screens on these. And he just does all that to a T and is brilliant at it. So that's what got him the job. But then the 3-point shooting is really starting to come around. He's, I think he's a guy that at his best in the NBA is probably going to make like 5 threes a game over the course of a whole season, and shoot like almost 40% doing it. He's just has such a clean shooting motion and is so great at it. But the real differentiator that's really started to see him sort of ascend to another level, which we really saw like that Dallas game when Luka had that giant triple double, like Grimes actually had a really awesome game that kind of got washed away by that loss ultimately, where he stepped in when RJ was hurt and became like that other source of offense. And he really has shown an ability to like attack closeouts. He's fantastic at doing that, of blowing by his guys because they have to respect his 3-point shot so much, and has a sneakily good handle. He has a sneakily good finishing game once he gets all the way to the rack. Or he's made some really eye-popping passes this year. Like, he'll get all the way into the teeth of the D and then just swing. One of our favorites recently that Gavin and I talked about was he like drove into the teeth of the D and threw like a over the head no look to Mitchell Robinson behind him for a dunk.
Those are always fun.
Yeah, and we were just like, dude, where did that come from? And I mean, he busts like 1 or 2 of those out per game now, like the baseline, like wraparound passes that make you kind of go, ooh, all right, like he can really pass the ball. So I'm not saying he's like a guard or like a point guard type, like maestro type dude, but he does enough with passing the ball and getting inside and finishing that it's really starting to unlock the entire game for him. And I think it's, as like the old euphemism goes, it's the game's really starting to like slow down for him at this point. And I think that's what's led to him getting that starting spot, and not only getting it, but, holding on to it and looking like, short of some sort of major move or something, I don't think he's going to be displaced from that anytime soon.
How far can the Knicks go with Julius Randle and RJ Barrett and the rest of their core, as well as the newest addition to the Knicks family, right? Jalen Brunson. How far can they go with that core? How much longer will RJ Barrett be out? Of course, you'll have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Knicks. Alex, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Yeah, always great to talk Knicks. I love when they're playing well and I get to talk about that. So this is always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, dude.